Welcome to Learn English Stories. Learn English with fun, clear, and slow stories. Listen, enjoy, and improve every day.
Part 1. The Ordinary Desk, the Extraordinary Dream. An ordinary student sat in the back row. He was not the best, and not the worst, just another face among many. Others spoke louder, answered faster, and seemed brighter. He stayed quiet, almost invisible. Yet inside, something restless was moving. It was a fire that refused to die. He wanted more than average. Grades and unnoticed days. He wanted change, a different future, a chance to rise above the label of ordinary. That desire did not shout, but it whispered again and again. Ordinary is not the end of the road. It is only the beginning. Many great stories began with nothing special. They began with a single choice. The choice to try to continue to fight when others gave up. The classroom was not fair. Some students had quicker minds or better support. Some carried natural talent that drew attention. But persistence is stronger than talent that is never used. Persistence can outlast advantage. This student decided to persist. He would keep going. Even when progress was slow, he would move step by step, page by page, mistake by mistake, until the results began to shift. He promised himself that effort would speak louder than doubt. Every small action became a stone on his path. Each note written, each lesson reviewed, each hour of practice built the ground beneath his feet. It was not exciting and it was not easy, but it was building something new. One could see yet. Ordinary is not a curse. It is the soil from which strength can grow. The decision to act, to keep moving forward, can transform an invisible student into someone unstoppable. And so the journey truly began. Part 2. The Power of a Small Step. Late at night, the house was quiet. While others slept, the student opened his book. The words looked heavy, and the pages felt endless, yet he pressed on one page, then another, just a few more lines. It did not look impressive, no. Applause, no recognition, no instant reward. But in that small act, something important happened. A seed was planted. Progress began, quietly, almost unseen. Real change does not come in one dramatic leap. It comes in tiny, repeated steps. Each page, each note, each problem solved adds to the foundation. Step by step, effort builds a path that cannot be erased. People often wait for motivation, like lightning, hoping for a burst of energy. But action creates motivation. One page tonight makes 2 pages. Tomorrow, one small victory builds courage for the next challenge. The student understood this. He knew he could not jump from average to excellent overnight, but he could review 10 minutes longer. He could ask one extra question in class. He could stay with the problem until it made sense. Slowly, quietly, he began to notice a shift. His handwriting grew neater. His memory lasted longer. His focus held stronger. Small steps were changing him from the inside out. This is the hidden power of consistency. The world does not see it. Friends may not notice, but every effort stacks up, forming a strength that no one can steal. The student was building momentum, and momentum changes everything. Part 3. The Moment of Doubt. Progress never comes without shadows. After weeks of effort, the student looked at his scores and saw little change. His classmates laughed and said nothing had improved. Their words cut deep, feeding the doubts already. Inside, questions filled his mind. What if I'm not smart enough? What if my time is wasted? What if No matter how hard us try, nothing will change. The doubt was heavy, louder than the small voice of hope. This is where most journeys collapse. The greatest battle is not against the subject or the exam. It is against the thoughts that whisper failure. Doubt is powerful because it feels true in the dark. Yet progress is often invisible at first. Seeds grow under the soil before breaking the surface. Muscles strengthen in silence before showing results. Skills build quietly until one day they suddenly appear. Effort works long before it can be seen. Athletes know this when they train for months before a single medal. Musicians understand this when they practice in empty rooms before stepping on stage. The student had to learn the same truth. Persistence must outlast doubt. One night, he nearly closed his notebook for the last time, but then he realized quitting would guarantee failure. Continuing still held the chance of success. That thought gave him just enough strength to keep going. So he turned another page. He wrote another line. He faced another problem. And in that choice, the fire inside him refused to die. Doubt was strong, but his persistence was stronger. Part 4. The breakthrough nobody saw coming. Then came a small but powerful moment. The teacher handed back a test. The student expected the same average score, ready for disappointment. But when he looked down, the number was higher, much higher than before. No one else cared. His classmates barely noticed. The room stayed the same, but inside him, something exploded. For the first time he had proof. His effort was working. His persistence was turning into results. Breakthroughs rarely arrive with noise. They come quietly after long stretches of silence. They appear when effort has been planted for weeks, months, sometimes years, and they remind you that the process was never wasted. History is filled with such moments. Edison failed thousands of times before creating the light bulb that lit the world. Ruling faced rejection after rejection before a publisher finally accepted her story. Their victories came quietly after endless struggle. The ordinary student shared this pattern. He had no special gift, no sudden miracle. What he had was persistence. And persistence created the crack of light in a long tunnel of effort. That test score was not just a grade, it was a symbol. It told him that he was capable of more than he believed. It showed him that effort is never lost. It always returns, even if slowly. The breakthrough fueled him. His fire burned brighter, not because others believed, but because he now believed in himself. And with belief, the climb became possible. Part 5. The climb gets steeper. After the first victory, hope returned, but hope was only the beginning. The student soon discovered a new truth. Progress does not make the road easier. The higher he climbed, the steeper it became. At first his steps were simple. Review notes, stay awake in class, finish the homework. But as he improved, expectations grew. Teachers asked for more. He set bigger goals for himself. Average was no longer enough. Better required sacrifice. He faced longer nights, harder chapters, tougher problems. He gave up hours of comfort. He said no to distractions. While others rested, he kept pushing forward. It was not glamorous, only demanding. This is where many turn back. They think progress should bring ease, but true growth increases the challenge. Every level up reveals the next mountain. Each success asks for more commitment than the last. The student often felt exhausted. His eyes burned and his hands ached from writing. Sometimes he wished to quit, yet he remembered the feeling of holding a higher score, the fire of seeing effort rewarded. That memory carried him forward. Growth always hurts, not because you are weak, but because you are stretching beyond limits. Runners feel the burn before breaking records. Musicians stumble before mastering a song. The pain is proof that change is happening. The climb was steep, but he kept going, and from every new height he could look back and see how far he had already come. That view gave him the strength to continue upward. Part 6. The turning point of identity. The climb did more than improve grades. It began to reshape how the student saw himself. At the start, he believed he was ordinary, destined to remain unnoticed, but every hour of effort whispered a new truth. He was not the same as before. His reflection in the mirror showed tired eyes, yes, but also determination. He realized he was no longer just trying, he was becoming someone stronger, someone different. This is the quiet shift of identity. Actions write a new story inside you. Step by step, you stop seeing yourself as weak. You stop calling yourself average. You begin to believe you are capable, resilient, and rising. Identity changes everything. Once you believe you are a fighter, you act like one. You stop asking if you can and start living as if you will. Confidence grows not from talent, but from persistence that proves itself over time. Others have walked this path. A beginner at the gym who once struggled eventually looks in the mirror and says, "I'm an athlete." A language learner who once stumbled over words finally says, "I'm improving every day." Identity creates momentum. The student reached this turning point. He stopped seeing himself as ordinary. He started seeing himself as determined, as someone who kept. That belief fueled his next steps with greater strength. Ordinary was no longer his label. Determined was his new name. And with that shift, the journey became unstoppable. Part 7. Inspiring others without knowing. The student never announced his struggle. He did not boast about late nights or long hours. Yet people began to notice. A classmate leaned closer and asked how he kept going. Another asked for help with a problem. Even a teacher looked at him differently. He was no longer just the quiet boy in the back row. He was the one who fought for progress. His effort had changed not only himself, but also the way others saw him. This is the hidden power of persistence. You may think no one is watching, but people always notice consistency. They see someone who refuses to stop, and it sparks a thought. If he can, maybe, or can too. True inspiration is often silent. It does not come from speeches or applause. It comes from ordinary people doing extraordinary things in quiet ways. Discipline, repeated daily, speaks louder than words ever could. The student did not try to inspire. He only tried to improve himself. Yet by doing so, he became proof that effort works. His journey became a message without him saying a single word. You never know who is watching you. Either a sibling, a friend, a colleague. They see your persistence. They notice your sacrifices. Your fight can become their strength, just as his fight became an example for others. By rising, the student gave others a reason to believe they could rise too. And that is how one person's determination can ignite courage in many. Part 8. From ordinary to unstoppable. The journey reached its turning point. The student who once hid in the back row was no longer invisible. His grades had improved, but the true victory was deeper. He had built resilience, discipline, and belief in himself. He discovered that being ordinary was never a permanent label, it was only a place to begin. What defined him was not where he started, but the choices he made each day when the work became hard. He kept choosing persistence over comfort, discipline over distraction, courage over doubt. Those choices transformed him from average to determined, from hesitant to unstoppable. His identity was no longer shaped by weakness but by strength. The truth became clear. Talent may open the door, but persistence keeps it open. Luck may appear and disappear, but discipline remains. Fear may whisper, but courage speaks louder when tested again and again. Looking back, he realized every page, every late night, every moment of struggle was part of the transformation. The climb was painful, but the pain shaped him. The doubts were heavy, but rising against them made him stronger. He understood now that the story of ordinary is not about staying small. It is about proving that greatness is built by ordinary people who refuse to. He had written his story with effort, not excuses, and so he stood taller, ready for the next chapter. From ordinary to unstoppable, his journey was living proof that persistence changes everything.